Hey guys, MJ the GM here. For whatever reason, I was a fool, and on this video, which we'll get you to in just a moment, I not only forgot to take us off of the "We'll be starting shortly" screen in XSplit Broadcaster, but I also forgot to plug the podcast and the vlogs that two of my players do, and I also forgot to play the intro video for the guys. So what can I say? I was having a bad day. But nonetheless, before we get you into the video proper and you think that maybe your video is frozen, it's not. I'm just an idiot and I forgot to actually change the scene. So, yeah, see how long it takes me to figure out that I have actually not changed the scene or played the intro video, which we will do for you in just a moment. But before we do, I'm just going to quickly plug the things that both the Chris's do, which is, first of all, Chris Powell, who plays Dr. Sott, does have his YouTube channel, The Utter Crisp Gaming. He'll be releasing something soon, but be sure to check out everything that he's got so far, especially his Having a Mosey series. And then, of course, Chris Bell, who is our resident actor, has a voice acting part in the audio drama Solarity. New parts, as you can see, are already out. Be sure to check that out as well. And so, yes, as well as being assaulted by the cat on numerous occasions, I did in fact forget to actually throw us past or out of the "We'll be starting shortly" video. So before we get you into the not exactly calamity, but yeah, the silliness that ensued, here's the intro video, and I hope you enjoy the recording of the rest of the stream. See yous.
Totally didn't accidentally use most of the power last time.
Well, this is it. Using the rules as written, it takes a point of power to do maneuvers, evasive or attack maneuvers. It takes a point of power to, at least one point of power to raise shields if they're not already up. It takes a point of power to fire weapons, so if you don't keep a close eye on your power output when you're piloting a ship, then it very easily, as demonstrated in the episode That Which Is Unknown, what happens when you run out of power? Your ship just kind of floats there, and you hope that the other guy doesn't open fire on you.
Or, your ship's currently being sucked of all its power, and you have to use power from a secondary ship.
Yes, which is why having a small, a small scout craft with quite a lot of power is a good idea. It means it can last longer in ship-to-ship engagements. As such, the Combs itself isn't too bad for that. 11 points of power with 10 points of shields, so you're reasonably good there too. But the Guichar, 9 points of power, 4 points of shields thrown. Scale 2 ship, not shabby at all. Right. So, just before we get started with this in earnest, are we missing anybody? Is anybody not logged in? It looks like Chris, you might not be logged into Foundry.
Yep, I'll just do that now.
Thank you.
Ooh, have I spent my acclaim yet? No, I haven't. I'm in my character notes because I've got milestones and.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think I've hit my acclaim either. Or did I?
Well, that would be a really good time, wouldn't it?
I was focusing on other stuff.
Yes, you were, and successfully too. So let's get to that thing that we didn't get to do. So, Mark, if you're all ready.
Yep.
Right, you didn't have any acclaim because you missed the last episode, I'm afraid.
Oh, I did.
Yes, you
But
did.
I've got.
So you can't claim acclaim for acts you didn't actually commit. So I'm afraid, and that
the
also means you missed out on
on
milestone.
spending. But the previous one,
Okay.
from the 27th,
All right.
did I spend that acclaim?
I seem to. Well, your reputation is the highest it can possibly go, and it looks like you might have. Let's go down through your. You're quite a good record keeper.
Yeah, because I've not spent from the 27th. I still don't know what I'm doing with milestones yet, because I like where my stuff is. I might nudge something more towards.
Well, that's fine.
Science.
Most folks I know of, usually they save up their minor and medium milestones
Yeah.
until they actually get an idea of what kind of thing they'd like to shuffle around. Usually
Yeah.
that only happens when you are moving departments, as it were. So
Yep,
what might have
that
been
makes
important
sense.
before is not important anymore. Or not as
Yeah, I can stockpile that because it wasn't the. So yeah, because I haven't got it in the 27th spend because I wanted to. Because I can use a claim
Mhm.
to influence NPCs and other characters.
And you had something in mind?
Yes, I don't know how comfortable I feel with this because it feels wrong, but it seems to be
But-
something you can do. But I need to check the spend. If I wanted to put myself in for a promotion to go up a rank,
Ah,
and then I
that
need
would
to
be
go to
3 acclaim.
Sobek. 3 acclaim, but then I could spend 2 acclaim on Captain Sobek.
Yes, you could. You would still have to spend 3 acclaim to put yourself forward for promotion, even if you had spent 2 acclaim on getting favor with Captain Sobek. You're dealing with a Vulcan as well, remember here, so these guys are going to be sticklers for procedure.
I mean, the funny part is, it doesn't have to be Captain Sobek. It just has to be a higher ranking person putting you forward.
True enough. But at the same time,
Found it in the chat. So 5. I do have 5 from the 27th, and I definitely didn't spend it on the 27th because I want to put it in my note. And it was the next week I missed. Or if you don't spend the acclaim because you're not here, you don't get to keep it.
usually, yes. If you're not here, then you don't get to keep it because it goes from thing to thing. But
No,
because
that's
I haven't said this before, I will give you this 1 period of dispensation for it. Because it isn't something that's come up. So, I will allow it this once.
Well, then I kind of want to just do that because it doesn't feel right. But I just 2 acclaim on Captain Sobek, and then I've got 3 to.
Put yourself forward for promotion.
Yep.
Alright. Put it in your
Yeah,
character notes.
Yep.
Because you've done the do, you've put your reputation all the way up to maximum, so now it's just a case of brown-nosing who you need to brown-nose.
Speaking about acclaim, I would like to increase my reputation to a 5.
Ahaha.
So I would have 1 acclaim left over. Are we doing that?
Correctamundo. So what we can do, if you want to do that, that's fine. Let me just take somebody else's reputation 5. In your character notes then, if you would be so kind as to note the difference. As soon as you've done that, I can give you the actual text for what reputation 5 means.
1.
Oh, you knocked it claim down by one. You should have one left, yeah. Because you spend the acclaim for the reputation you want to gain. So I take it. Go on, sorry.
You know what I'm using my acclaim for?
Well, we'll get there in a sec. So, Connie, you're upping your reputation to 5.
Yep.
Boosh. Rourke. So, let's do that here as well. You've already done it. Nice. Phlesc, you've put it down in your character notes. Not yet.
Oh, I have. I just haven't closed the edit.
Right. As if by magic.
There we go.
It's not there yet. Not for me, anyways. I'll check back on that in a sec. But, okay. Alright, so somebody else had something they want to do with a claim.
So, upping my house's reputation by the Klingon rules is it only takes 3 acclaim. Because that's what my house reputation is at right now.
Right.
So I would be upping it to 4, which should still leave me with 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna get, a lovely medal.
Ha ha ha, yes, the medals. So, we have knocked acclaim down by 3 and then upped house reputation to 4.
Oh, I can't open Hopkins' character sheet. That's weird.
You can't.
Yeah, I can open everyone else's.
Yeah, I can't either.
That's probably because the commander is a shapeshifter and doesn't want you to know.
Oh no.
Let me just check permissions compared to everybody else. Yeah, okay.
Just being nosy.
It's fine because sometimes, when folks are away, we need to temporarily take control of other characters. But there we are. That should be remedied. It was a permissions thing.
Ah, yeah.
So everyone's going to have a good old look at what Commander Hopkins is now capable of. Could they take her on in a disruptor pistol battle? 9 successes, 2 effects. That was a heck of a shot. This was at the firing range, mind you, and not actually at somebody for definite, so we'll see. So that was... You were going to get a medal next, which was an award talent. Anyone in particular that you had spied? Or have you already got it?
I already put it on.
Starcross? Excellent. So once permission, before attempting a task and applying a focus, you can double your focus range. Haha.
That's a good one.
Starcross, one of the ones my other group swears by. I think Legion of Honor is the other one.
Now we got 2 people with the Starcross and medal.
Yeah.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's a star-cross.
Oh, it's so bad the actual advert jingle just went through my brain the moment you said that.
Conditioned.
Well, in more ways than one, it seems.
Hey.
I
So you
know
want
what
to
I'm doing my next load of acclaim, because there's the Azure, because you can give it to other characters, can't you?
You can, if you want, give a claim to other characters.
The Azure Crush for excellent in piloting for Tavish.
Well, Tavish ain't. Unfortunately, Dave isn't here at the moment, but which is why Tavish has only got 0.
I mean, conditions. Their actions were critical to saving lives. We didn't die. So.
You want to award an extra point of acclaim? Congratulations, we didn't die. Thanks. Hey, Hopkins! Not Hopkins. Hey, Tavish, you didn't kill us. Well done. I feel you've turned a corner. That does mean Tavish's 6 acclaim will go more or less unspent. Unless Dave puts up a real fight about it, in which case I'm a big softie and I might very well relent. Never mind. Alright then, so any other stuff to do with milestones or acclaim that we want to get done that we haven't already gotten done, or have we gotten everything that we wanted?
I think I want to use, is it 1 milestone to change my focus?
Ooh, okay, yep, you can do that with a minor milestone, I do believe.
Lovely. I think I will want to change. Xeno. Okay. I love Dabble, but obviously I can't deal with it anymore. So I want to change Dabble to Xenobiology.
Alright, no problem, off you go. Edit Dabo, change it to what you need to be. Changing the names to protect the guilty. Xenobiology, always useful.
Oh,
This is what
Dabble
we
can
use
still
most
be
of
a hobby.
Dabo can almost certainly still be a hobby. Definitely.
But
But
this
that's
is my
not-
probability, statistical probability on my Dabble from now on.
Wise. Okay, yeah, that's cool. No problem with that whatsoever. So I've made note of the minor milestone spend. You've still got more. You've so far accrued 4 minors, 1 medium, and you've used 2 minors and 1 medium, so that's not bad going at all. Cool beans. Anything else? Any last things? Has anybody got... Yes, go on, Mark.
I was just gonna say, I've been looking, but like, there's nothing really at the moment in terms of medals that I'd really jump at quite yet.
Okay. Okie dokie. I think ones that, yeah, there's the Starfleet Surgeon's decoration.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I've gone like above and beyond quite yet.
Keep that in mind for some other time then. See if
Yeah.
Dr. Sott just leaps dramatically in to save somebody. Kevin Costner style.
I think one thing I was thinking of doing might sort of like, if everyone's getting their project, I'd sort of like to try and maybe, honestly, kind of pimp the EMH out. See how useful I can make that, what other abilities I can give it. You know, because seeing how far the other one got in the show, it'd be kind of cool to do something like that as well.
Well,
And
it's...
Maybe that's my project. I
Yeah.
can tinker with the EMH.
I had the project, the precursor to Tavish, which was modding the bioscanner to actually be able to do augmentations and minor repairs to humans and humanoid forms.
Okay, so we've got possibilities, or do we actually want to jump into them as actual science projects to do?
I think I will go for mine.
Yep, same.
Okay. So, Phlesk's project was... what, exactly?
So the bioscanner, rather than just being a scanner, it could be like a little first aid drone and do very minor repairs on humans, either in emergency situations or when Tavish decides to go a bit mental.
Or, surely you mean when?
Let's say if.
If and when. Okay, so that was Phlesk's bioscanner, make it a mobile first aid kit. Nice. And Sott's idea was what again?
Just like upgrading the EMH.
Upgrading the EMH.
In terms of what direction, I don't know. But like,
Roll.
there's
random.
untapped. Yeah, there's untapped potential there.
Well,
He's
if
a Tinker
we-
Tenor Dr. Spy.
yes, indeed. So what we do, as I noted before, with scientific projects by the crew during downtime, is that you essentially give me as good a description as to what you're trying to achieve, and then you give me a number of fields of investigation that you're going to be undertaking.
Okay, I think I'll have to
So-
develop this idea further for now.
Well, does that mean you don't actually want to start looking into it?
And maybe
or-
not today. No, I was just sort of floating the idea to see if it was viable. But yeah, next time I'll come up with some stuff for next week. or
Okay.
whatever we
What
do for
about
next episode?
What about you, Mark?
Yeah. So the bioscanner is capable of scanning life forms and one at a time and detecting either inconsistencies, but what it can't do is do anything about them. So
You wanna
being
fix
able
that?
to, I want to fix that. So by having it as like a mobile first aid kit, it needs to have something bolted on so it can actually physically probe to either administer medicine or patch up. So I'm essentially probably taking a first some doctor's tools and bolting them onto the scanner, so
Right.
it's able to actually intervene.
So what
without
I'm
needing
looking
to-
for from you then is what we do is we identify between 3 and 5 different avenues of investigation, and they can and usually are linked in some way to the focuses a character has, because obviously if they're specialized in some things, then research into that kind of field is going to go that much faster. But they don't necessarily have to be focuses that you or somebody else has got. They can still be avenues of investigation. So, for instance, if you're trying to up this bioscanner, then one of the first things that comes to mind is AI programming as a
Not a
field of
focus I
investigation, because the thing needs to be able to diagnose in order to apply the proper
Yep.
dosages
and,
of drugs and whatnot. So that's one
so-
avenue of investigation, potentially.
the focuses that I would have said do apply is some sort of portable replicator if it's needing to conjure up its anti-venom, for example, or the bespoke medicine it's needing to apply, because that is a focus I have in replicators. Medicine and triage I find goes hand in hand, so it's being able to program this AI with appropriate medical triage. I'm bolting the EMH into the device scanner, aren't I?
It sounds like both of you might be working towards the same kind
Same
of
goal.
end.
But in order to do that, the third one would be power systems. We've got electroplasma power systems. I don't think we ever said how this device bioscanner is powered. Some kind of mobile electroplasma power system, apparently.
Well,
looking
yeah,
to be able to get the most out of it in order to be able to handle the extra workload.
Okay. So what I'm getting so far is I've got 4 potential different avenues of investigation. AI programming, replicator technology, medicine, and power systems. You can have one more if you think there's one more that you could do, but if that's the most you can think of, then that's fine. I will then have to decide which one of these fields is the one that's going to get you the result you want. And I'm having a think. It doesn't. It might even be one that's not there in your list. So
Yeah, it's AI triage. Something that's medicine focused, which is I can't think of a medicine focus that directly applies because I want to keep it as general as possible because we have
Yes.
quite a diverse group of the crew, and who
Which
knows
would
what
make
the amount
sense.
to count out there.
So, after I have chosen what I believe is the right avenue of investigation, it's then up to you now to choose which avenue you are going to pursue first.
Okay.
This will be very much like an extended task. It'll have a number of successes that I will require you to have achieved before you can legitimately say that you've come to the end of this period of field testing and running diagnostics and running simulations and such before you eventually get the results that say yay or nay. So I reckon, because you're already building on technology that you've already got, I am going to give it that many successes. I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Ooh.
So, you have to find out for yourself. But essentially, what you're doing... give me just a second. Liz just asked for a link. Hopefully you should have... I'm not sure if Liz had got access to my Dropbox folder. We will see. That should have all relevant rulebooks in it. If you can't access it, then you're going to need to send me your email address so that I can link you up to be able to use that folder. In the meantime, likewise, like I noted with Tavish's experiment, or first steps into her experiment with AI, you don't have to do this on your own. You can ask for help from other crew members, including some of your supporting cast, if needs be. So obviously, if you're going to go down the medicine route, then obviously getting help from Dr. Sott makes sense.
Yep. And when it comes to actually completing it or building it, I'd probably call in Tavish.
Precisely.
Dr. Scott, yeah. Okay.
So, which avenue? I mean, once again, and folks, everyone else in the group can feel free to jump in here with recommendations. So far, the avenues of investigation are AI programming, replicator technology, medicine, power systems. Any others that anybody can think of, or do you think those are all good?
Pretty solid base for the moment.
Connie, Liz, no other ideas? No. Okay, go on. No, okay, right. So, now you choose which avenue you want to pursue first.
Going to want to see what's possible because I'm not building it in yet. I'm doing the simulation, so it's looking at AI because I'm going to need to be able to detect and perform the actions before I start loading it with any of the EMH or any of the medical information. Can I actually get this thing to be smarter than it is? Because as a prototype, it can be massive, and that's when I'd step onto power systems to actually make it more portable. So I'm going to go with AI, closely followed by medicine.
So you're going to start with AI.
Yep.
And we'll see how far down that rabbit hole we go. Okay, so if we're going down AI programming, you're probably going to want somebody with some kind of computer programming abilities, if you want any help at all. So does anybody here... Tavish has got computers, yes. Neshlel... Well, the statistical probability stuff has come in handy many, many times.
Yeah.
If anything, just to poke holes in your math.
Yep.
So both Tavish and Gerkow can assist Phlesc if he really wants them to join in.
I think Tavish has defaulted to yes, as Dave's not here.
She has no option. That's fine. All right then. So this is Phlesk's project, so he's going to be primary on this. So Tavish and Gerkow are going to be secondary. Whilst Liz is searching through the... hopefully you're connecting to my Dropbox folder okay.
No, I had to send you my email.
Yep, so that should have sent you, hopefully, an email back giving you what you need to access the place. You might need a Dropbox login, though, if you haven't already got an account. So you deal with that while I ask Chris, then, if you could take control of Tavish for the moment. This kind of stuff is going to be reason and... Well, this is AI programming, so this is going to be reason and science. But reason and engineering can be made a case for, because I suppose Tavish could be the one actually inputting the code, and Phlesc is the one coming up with the pseudocode for it first, and Gerkow then pulls apart the reasoning and the maths and says, in all statistical probability, you should do this instead.
Yeah, I
kind
think
of
if
thing.
Tavish is actually the one, like, hands-on tinkering with the thing, maybe engineering is the
I can
the
go
right
with that.
call.
Gerkow can do
sorry.
reason and science with the statistic. I really have problems with that. Statistical probability. Woo!
Should I use the focus of, like, experimental technology or computers?
Computers would make more sense at this juncture.
Cool. 1 or 2 dice, sorry.
1 dice, because Tavish apparently is aiding. So that's one success from Tavish. Good. Connie, if you could give us already on it. 1 success from Gerkow. So now it's down to the project head himself. Reason and science. 2 dice, unless of course you want to add more.
No, let's go with what we've got.
Alright, I just got to reload for a moment because my, once again, my momentum and threat pools are not visible to me.
Good lord, 12 threat.
That's a good point. There aren't 6 of you, so I have to nod this down to 8. So, yeah, Marky Mark, if you can give me that roll then, please.
Oh,
2
it just
dice.
did it. 2 successes. Did you not?
I
No
must
one
have
else
missed
see
it when I... no, I must have missed it when I reloaded. 2 successes, that's 4 overall. Not bad. Okay. Initial investigation into the AI programming is looking reasonable. You know, it's go on, sorry.
So is this an extended task that I'm doing, or just an engineering or science task?
More or less, because you do have something to help you with that, don't you?
Yeah, in the nick of time. I get 1 additional work for every effect rolled when I succeed.
Yeah, so this is the difference between extended tasks and what I'm doing with interpreting the rules for the scientific method. I'm counting the number of successes you gain rather than making you roll again to see how much of a dent you put in the task track. I'm not using that. I'm trying to keep it as short and succinct as possible, so I'm just counting the successes. So I'm counting the 4 successes. As such, you are in the preliminary stages of coding everything, so you're putting down the base code. There's already some base code there, of course, because your little bioscanner already has certain medical scanning algorithms pre-programmed in. Now you're trying to extend the code base, as it were. So far so interesting, but nothing yet that can give you any solid results as a positive or negative either way. But solid work so far all the same. This explains why Dr. Sott isn't immediately jumping into his project, because he's been helping Phlesc with his. So, here we go.
Cool.
Groovy. So, before we get the episode itself started, anybody got anything else they want to try and get sorted as a downtime first? Liz, how's it looking? Have you actually gotten into the Dropbox folder yet?
Oh, yes, I'm just looking to read the...
Excellent. As long as you've got that, that's fine. You've now got the list of... you've got access to the same resources we do, so... just make sure. Utopia Planitia, the Klingon Core Rulebook, the Player's Guide, the Rulebooks, and the Quadrants and the Divisions. Cool, yep. Those are all the books that count. Right. So, yes. Where are we in relation to... So... the situation we currently find ourselves in on the Combs at the moment is a bit of a tense time now. It was already a tense time. About a month ago, you were only a month ago you had the visit to the strange Bacchus system and everything that happened there with the alien monolith and the nearly getting caught in the system as it was, the planetary system as it was being destroyed. But that event was a week from Odo on board the Defiant killing a changeling, and that changeling's last words were, "We are everywhere." And as I noted at the beginning of last time's session, as a result, security has been stepped up across the Federation, and so security procedures when it comes to docking and disembarking from, if disembarking is the right word, from space dock in not from space dock, Narendra Station. There are now blood screenings that are being done in order to try and tell who's changeling and who's not, because it seems that the Alpha Quadrant is now getting infiltrated by changeling spies. Were this not enough to make everybody paranoid, this episode takes place a month after the previous adventure, as I already noted, but this session's event takes place 2 weeks and 2 days after the Klingons have decided that the Cardassians have been infiltrated by changelings, and therefore the Cardassians are either working knowingly or unknowingly with the Dominion. And so the Klingons have started invading Cardassian space. To say that this has put a bit of a tension on relations between the Klingons and the Federation folks who share occupancy of Narendra Station would be putting it a bit mildly, because the Federation has condemned the act of Gowron and the Klingon Empire of invading the sovereign space of Cardassia with not much in the way of credible evidence. So at the moment there's kind of a division. There are those Klingons who are very much loyal to Gowron and are therefore giving their Starfleet contemporaries the cold shoulder if they don't agree with the stance of the Empire on invading Cardassian space in order to make the Alpha Quadrant and Beta Quadrants secure against further infiltration by the Founders. So yes, relations between the Starfleet and Klingons crew on board Narendra Station has been very, very strained. No one feels this more than Commander Hopkins herself, because she's technically a Starfleet officer, but she's also very invested in her Klingon side of her lineage, so she is frequently being prodded by her Klingon contemporaries over where does she sit on the divide of, are the Klingons right to invade Cardassia, or are the Klingons in the wrong for invading Cardassia? So, you know, that's up to Liz how she thinks Hopkins would respond in that instance, but either response gets you in hot water with somebody, so...
I think the crew would notice that she doesn't leave her room that much anymore.
So yes, tensions between these allies running a bit hot at the moment, as well as the rampant paranoia that anybody could be a changeling. However, almost to your relief, the Combs has been dispatched to a planet not in the Shackleton Expanse, but within the bounds of Federation space. So you've made your way back along that channel between the Romulan and Neutral Zone and the Klingon Empire northern border, and you're back in regular Federation space for now, because you have been given a mission, and it means you're away from the station for a little bit, so it couldn't have come at a more opportune time, and as such, I will jump us to the Captain's Log. Captain's Log, stardate 49055.1. We have been ordered to assist a Federation observation team on the planet Kalmur, a pre-contact world whose humanoid inhabitants are in the early stages of research that could lead to warp drive. One member of the observation team is missing and presumed dead after a fatal accident in the research facility. Our mission is to investigate the accident and to aid in recovering any identifiable human remains. As always, our highest priority will be to preserve the Prime Directive and ensure our presence on Kalmur does not disrupt its culture's natural development. This is a particularly sensitive concern when a society is this close to expanding into space on its own. A mishandled, unplanned first contact could frighten them away from space travel, or make them belligerent towards aliens once they emerge. Starfleet pre-contact teams understand the stakes better than anyone, which is what makes the presence of an observer at the site of a fatal accident so troubling. Was it merely a coincidence, or something more? So, the ship comes out of warp into the Kalmur system as we find ourselves on the bridge. And so, Captain Sobek orders your comm officer, Ensign Ravalon, to open a secure channel to the observation post on the second planet of the Kalmur system. No, I tell a lie, the third. Ensign Ravalon reports duly that a coded return signal has been sent by the observation outpost, and they have been given the geosynchronous coordinates with which to assume standard orbit. Actually, no, strike that. It's not standard orbit. You have to assume slightly higher than regular orbit, because, as has been noted, this is a pre-warp civilization, but they are on the cusp, potentially, of developing technology that could see them develop into a spacefaring society. As such, they do have satellites and whatnot in orbit, so your helm officer, Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang, has to take the ship into slightly higher than average orbit in order to try and escape the notice of the Kalmurian detection satellites, which is no problem for your helm officer. You are given the exact beaming coordinates for the observation outpost. Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang reports orbit has been achieved, and so Captain Sobek turns towards his number one. Commander, put together an away team. We need to investigate this matter as quickly and efficiently as possible. Take whoever you think you'll need.
And I'm guessing we're going to be beaming down instead of taking a shuttle.
Correct. It is the most unobservable means that you have at your disposal, and there's no atmospheric interference or anything like that that requires the need for a landing craft. So yes, you are able to transport down. So,
Only if I would put cloaking technology on the CERN ship, we would have been able to.
but you didn't. You went for the extra reactors, the extra power reactors. So there we are. This is
well,
Starfleet. So, who do you think? Yep, sorry, go on. Need the doctor, or okie dokies? You are going down to investigate what might have happened, so whoever you think.
I did just have xenobiology added to
You
my
did?
focuses.
You did?
Do we need faceless, by the way? To blend
Do you
in?
need what, sorry?
Just faceless or surgical
Well,
transformations.
yes, that's a distinct possibility if the mission gets to the point where you have to actually go to the scene of the crime, as it were, then in all likelihood you're going to have to disguise yourselves as Kalmurians. You want your security chief with you, Okie Spokes?
I mean,
You should be able to lead an investigation.
yeah,
Mhm.
I do have triage as well as a fanciful focus in power systems and replicators. But if it's just the investigation, you can also examine the power systems in artillery. So Phlesc will be coming along, or wants to, I should say.
Yep. Okay. Neatos.
And practically speaking, parent figure.
Yes. Everybody loves that parent figure. So, I know Dave isn't here today, but do you want to take Tavish down as an engineer, or do you want to leave her on the ship until she's needed? Maybe just take her down to the observation outpost and see what's there, or wait until she's actually, her expertise is actually called for. Up to you guys.
Having a couple of characters on the ship is not a bad idea, in case we need anything. And having an engineer on the ship.
You want to take the counselor because she's a telepath, I take it?
You never know.
Well, exactly. So that could be very helpful. Alright, final call then. Are these the folks you want to take down to the observation post? I will take the
sounds good
silence.
to me. Sorry, I didn't realise I was muted.
Yeah, looks good.
Alright then, so you head to the main transporter room. You shouldn't need weapons or anything like that with you, so yes, you've got the expertise you need. It's time to beam straight to the observation outpost. So.
Plus, it doesn't hurt to have our have towers on the ship. So if we need it, if we have to say leave, but there's interference,
Yes, quite.
they can or cannot fly a shuttlecraft down to get us.
Indeed. So, yes, always good to have somebody at the backup just in case. Alright, let's change the ambience. You find yourselves beamed down to a typical Starfleet transporter pad in what appears to be precisely what you expected, which was a prefabricated Starfleet science observation outpost. These are the kind of things that are quick assembled from kits that pretty much unpack themselves. They have to be surreptitious, but also easily assembled. So these things tend to be prefabricated kits. And as soon as you emerge on the transporter pad, you are greeted by a Vulcan female in a science officer outfit. Greetings and welcome to Kalmur Observation Outpost. I am Ensign Tajin, and I was the one responsible for sending the message requesting assistance from Starfleet. I am presuming you are here about the missing, presumed dead Lieutenant Ricardo Lee.
Yes.
Excellent. Then I would like to have it formally entered into the record that I believe I know precisely who is to blame for Lieutenant Lee's disappearance, if not death.
Is our empath picking anything up off of our welcome party?
Well, Councillor Sachs is getting pretty much what she expects from a Vulcan. Cold logic.
Well, I guess, sure. Who do you think is responsible?
The project head, Dr. Nosan Gur. I am fully prepared to back up my accusation if you wish, Commander.
Yeah, we're gonna need why.
Yeah. Why is that? Yes.
Very well.
Trust me, bro.
Very well. Dr. Gur is a proponent of a method of anthropology which she denotes as... wait a minute, Matt has just forgotten the word. Immersive anthropology. Dr. Gur believes that rather than simply observing from afar using our more sophisticated sensor and monitoring technology, that scientific agents should be placed in disguise into the field in order to observe in person. This, of course, raises the risk of discovery and therefore contamination of the very society that we have been sent to monitor. For a proponent of the Prime Directive, as Lieutenant Lee was, this was a sticking point, and as such, He and Dr. Ger have come to frequent disagreements over Dr. Ger's immersive anthropological methods. I believe, as a measure of her strict adherence to this immersive protocol she has developed, she is directly responsible for the death of Lieutenant Ricardo Lee.
So do you believe Ricardo Lee was out in the field and was discovered and killed?
No, I do not. I am uncertain as to the actual circumstances surrounding the accident within the gravitational experiment that he was observing. However, the fact that he was there, observing in person when we could have been monitoring the situation, meant that Lieutenant Lee's life was put in danger, and the threat of discovery by the Kalmurians was also an unacceptable risk. But since she is Project Head, Dr. Ger had final say. Therefore, in order to try and ensure that the Prime Directive was adhered to as much as possible, given the circumstances, Lieutenant Lee insisted that he be the one to go into the field.
And how was he able to infiltrate, to view this in person?
We have prosthetics and a medical assistance with which to disguise ourselves as Kalmurians. Disguises that, if you are yourselves to go out into the field to investigate, will... yeah, also, you will also be needing.
Yeah, I think I'd like to acquaint myself with those.
Very well. I can lead you now into the observation outpost proper, if you wish.
Yes, please.
If you will come with me. She enters a security code onto the keypad and... Commander, Lieutenants, may I introduce Project Lead Dr. Norsan Ger. Right, you find yourselves in, again, a very standard-looking Starfleet observation post. You've seen these things in countless places, like I said, prefabricated, preset technology. You've got these windows. I say windows. They're more like tinted force fields, I suppose, one-way force fields rather than one-way two-way windows, but that look out over a vista which shows a valley with a bustling city in the not-too-distant distance. The outpost, of course, is cloaked using hollow technology so that it's not observable by any of the natives. Lieutenant Phlesc is very close to the primary display, which is a large hollow table, currently displaying schematics of some kind of building layout. You've got various different equipment and consoles cataloging different types of data from various points around the planet. There is also 2 human science officers going about their business, although they are casting looks at you guys as you come in. The project head herself, Dr. Ger, who appears to be Catulan. If you don't know what Catulans are, then I will direct you as quickly as I can to Memory Alpha, the one and only resource for all things Star Trek. So I'm just going to throw this link into the Discord channel for everybody to look at. These guys are from the original series of Star Trek, and as the blurb actually attests, they are actually humanoids who do possess the ability to do a nerve pinch, but in a very similar manner to Vulcans, but they do it using their thumbs instead of their whole hand. As such, Dr. Ger is she's middle-aged by Catulan standards, and therefore has streaks of white in her otherwise very, very loud pink hair. But she hasn't even acknowledged your presence at the moment. She is still inputting information into the console in front of her.
What rank does she have on, if she does?
It looks like Dr. Gur is a civilian scientist. Same goes for these two scientists here. Ensign Tajin coughs loudly. Dr. Gur, these are the Starfleet personnel that I said would be beaming down. At which point Dr. Gur just holds one finger up in the air as she still concentrates very intently on what she's doing. And you're still waiting. And you're still waiting.
Can we interrupt her? And Phlesc sort of interrupts by saying, "What is it I'm looking at here?" As I look at the map-out representation here.
At which point you do get Dr. Gur's attention. Oh, that would be the Aphios Research Institute, where they have been attempting to develop anti-gravity technology. The site of the most recent unfortunate accident. We've managed to map the place, of course, and we've been keeping an eye, in literally as well as figuratively, on the personnel involved in the project. I'm currently cataloguing the recent data that we have acquired. So, if you will give me a few moments. Important research data.
How are you able to infiltrate their society and their research facilities? You do have prosthetics, but how have you managed to go undetected when out in the field?
Observation, dear boy. I'm the chief anthropologist. I've done this countless times before. I know exactly what I'm doing. I usually expect my staff to also know what they're doing in this regard. With that comment, Councillor Sachs gets a very definite surge of annoyance, which is then smothered by Vulcan discipline from Ensign Tajin. The two other civilian scientists are keeping their heads down.
Well, as someone who's not done this several times,
I'm an idiot.
explain.
Everybody's
Yeah.
been seeing nothing but the starting shortly screen.
Yeah.
Well,
Send
dang!
your message.
I'm a fool. Everyone's been enjoying the sight of that starting shortly thing for the last 54 minutes.
MJ the GM is now we're debuting as an audio drama channel.
Theater of the mind.
But, so out of character, doesn't
Yes,
the
of course.
Prime Directive technically forbids first contact of non-spacefaring civilizations?
Well, here is where it gets rather interesting, because technically only Starfleet are beholden to the Prime Directive,
There's
not
an awful lot of
civilians.
lovely Starfleet equipment here, though.
Yeah.
That has been supplied to you.
And it was a Starfleet officer, and that's pretty much involved.
To be fair, isn't it Starfleet protocol when a civilization is almost at warp? We want to observe them to see if they're ready to join the Federation as soon as that occurs.
Yeah, but from a distance, not technically contacting with them and face to face like they've been doing from what I've gathered.
Yes, but that's so limiting. And Dr. Gur actually gets animated at this point. This is the first time she's shown genuine interest in you guys now. Everything that you've just said. Imagine when the Kalmurians eventually do manage to create anti-gravity technology. We will log it in a report, saying that this Kalmurian, that Kalmurian, and that Kalmurian, with help from that Kalmurian, managed to achieve successful completion of an antimatter project, stardate, whatever. That's it. That's everything you have. You don't have any account for how the Kalmurians might have felt about this great step that they've taken towards galactic society. Are the Kalmurians intimidated by the prospect? Are they excited about the prospect? Do they have mixed feelings about the risk it puts their culture, or are their cultures open-minded and therefore willing to take this step into the unknown? How can you know what these people think and feel at these precise, important moments in their societal development if you're not there to feel it yourself as well?
Has there been any risk of... Oh, sorry.
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, has there been any risk of, like... Has there been any incidents of, like, contamination, or have you guys managed to keep a very low profile whilst immersed outside in their society?
We used prosthetics to disguise the 2 people we sent into the field, which were Lieutenant Ricardo Lee and Ensign Taji here. They were the Starfleet officers, and they insisted they be the ones who do it because they couldn't see the Prime Directive disturbed.
And
So they were the ones who went down. Yes, they might have been right, but they were the ones who were supposed to see it through. Again, how do you draw the line between just reporting on an incident and then reporting how it felt for these people? And how do you know that unless you're there yourself?
And what would happen if your method turns this race against become xenophobic and starts going to war with every species they come across?
Well, let's paint that as the extreme picture that it is, shall we? It's a possibility.
That's a possibility that the Prime Directive purposely avoids by having us do this offhands.
And as such, every anthropological report from now until back when this whole General Order 1 stuff was put into effect, all we've had are just cold, lifeless, mathematical reports. Anthropology shouldn't be drudgery. It should be telling the story of these people who are taking this gigantic step towards a better future.
But that's their story to tell.
And it's our story to catalogue.
And we can catalogue it when we make first contact.
And we will have ringside seats on when they will be ready for that.
Do we have any idea how far they are off warp technology?
Well, that was why I sent Lieutenant Lee and Ensign Tajin here into the Aphios Research Institute undercover with prosthetic disguises, and having observed the people at the Institute for some time, that was the whole point of the endeavor, was to get a better idea of when they would be ready, and to be able to catalogue it when they were.
So what information do we have on the event? Because, yes, they were in disguise. I still have questions on how you integrated into the society to be undetected.
Observation and talent, dear boy. I have been doing this a long time. You know what? I've lost patience with them. Tajin, you fill them in on whatever they need. I have work to do. Now, before I go and do that, I've got a cat who is just about ready to start smacking me in the face because he wants something to eat. So, if you'll excuse me for just a moment, folks, I am going to give him something to eat so he doesn't start... Actually, no, he's already started. There we go. Take 5, folks. I will be back in 2 seconds. Formulate your questions and responses. All right!
So, how did she get out if both of them were in disguise? Is my question.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were both sent to observe, we've only got one.
Yeah.
All right.
Something tells me we're not getting the full story.
Right. So you were going to... Right, you were asking them to give you the story of the accident? So, Ensign Tajin is essentially being asked to fill you in on what happened.
Yes, please.
Very well. A day ago, the team was observing the Aphios Research Institute's tests of an experimental artificial gravity generator. Gravitational fields, as you know, are an elementary space-time warp, a simple form of the same kind of physics that underlie warp drives, wormholes, and other forms of faster-than-light propulsion. Artificial gravity generation is thus the first practical step towards interstellar travel. As such, Dr. Gur considered the observation of this historic moment to be highly important. Lieutenant Ricardo Lee and myself used forged identities as a pair of Kalmurian researchers from a university in a small overseas country named Petulis to gain access to the gravity experiment as observers. As the team's engineer, Lieutenant Lee was in the test chamber when the fatal accident occurred, which apparently killed him along with the generator's inventor and his assistant, who were all in the test chamber at the time. The details are, at the moment, still unclear, but apparently the gravity generator ran out of control and produced an intense enough field to crush everyone in the chamber. I was conducting observations elsewhere in the city at the time of this accident.
Why were you not together? You were sent in together. Surely it's best practice, if not in line with the Prime Directive, to at least stay as a team.
I was given another task to perform.
What was the nature of this task?
A personal task.
In an uncontacted pre-warp society.
Ensign Tajin at the moment is just, her jaw muscles are flexing.
Oh, what's our councillor picking up here?
Well, let's see then, shall we? Who hasn't rolled yet? Liz. Do you want to take control of Councillor Sachs and see if she can detect anything? Likewise, I am going to give you Vulcan officers. Right, so you've got 2 successes to overcome. So if, Liz, you could open up Councillor Sachs's character sheet and give me an insight and command check with focus of empathy, I suppose?
Oh, do we have no momentum? Oh.
You haven't generated any momentum yet, no.
Uh-oh.
So this would be the chance to do so. There we go. 1 success. Okay. Councillor Sachs is having trouble getting past Vulcan mental discipline. So she's coming up against a wall, so she's not as able to penetrate Tajin's defenses to get a good read on what her mental or emotional state might be right now.
Could I aid with psychiatry? It's not telepathy, but
Good.
maybe I can read some body. Maybe I can read some body language.
Sure. 1
You mentioned your
dice.
jaw is bouncing. That's physical evidence.
Yep, yep.
1 dice. What am I?
1 dice.
Insight and
insight, and if it's going to be psychology, then I'll allow you to use insight and medicine.
Thank you.
Because you're using the science of psychology to try and have a good old feel for what's going on. Another success. So you've generated 2 successes, so you've drawn equal with your target, so same thing. Vulcan stoicism being what it appears to be, you know that she's holding something back, but what that could possibly be, it's unclear because, well, Vulcans, when they put the walls up, they're as unreadable as a wall.
Ensign, would you... Is there a place that you can give us the full story away from prying ears?
There is, of course, the corridor down, as she indicates, down this, past that door, near the living quarters of the staff here. We could talk there if you wanted to.
Yeah, you and, I guess, those that want to get the full story can go with her there. Hopkins is going to go make a report to the captain.
Okay.
On what she feels has been the cause of this incident.
Okay then.
I feel like I'd also like to ask the council if she got anything when we were talking to Dr. Norsan Gerks. I'm not sure we did we? We didn't ask her to check then.
No, you didn't. But
Is there a way to, like, retroactively...
Yeah. Sure, I mean, if you want to use the excuse to try and generate momentum, then by all means, yes, another insight and command check from Councillor Sachs would be... I mean, you may as well do it, Chris, since you came up with the idea.
Sure, insight and what, sorry?
Command.
Science, again. Oh, command, I beg your pardon.
That tends to be the attribute discipline combination used for betazoid mental abilities, so...
No, cool.
So...
Cool.
All Councillor Sachs can report from getting from Gur is she is extremely focused on her work. The moment you mentioned anything to do with her work was when she became animated, and she's... What Councillor Sachs can tell you is that Dr. Gur is very used to defending her outlook on immersive anthropology. And therefore, what you got essentially was the same rehearsed speech that she probably gives every time somebody challenges her on her viewpoint. So, yeah, she's brilliant, but she's extremely focused and very much dedicated to her way of thinking. So, as far as a councillor's opinion, that could suggest a rigidity of thinking, or at the very least, an unwillingness to see anyone else's point of view but her own. So make of that what you will. In the meantime, Commander Hopkins was disappearing around a corner to make a report to the captain. Okie dokie. So let's do combat chirp. I'm opening the wrong app. Let's get you. Combs here. Go ahead, Commander.
So, well, we've talked with the doctor and the ensign who made the report, and it sounds like this doctor is somewhat responsible for what happened in the incident.
Explain.
Because she feels that they have to be immersive with the culture in order to understand how they feel the second they reach warp technology or spacefaring technology, instead of observing the Prime Directive and keeping a hands-off approach.
You have evidence to support that Lieutenant Ricardo Lee is dead.
Not yet, but from what we gathered from the ensign, there was an incident in the development process, and Lieutenant Lee, along with 2 of the native inhabitants were crushed.
I see.
We won't be able to get actual proof without going in disguise or making our presence known.
If you believe that
To
that
the
is the
people.
most direct path to discovering the truth of this matter, Commander, then I leave it within your purview to decide whether or not such a risk is necessary. Do you believe such a risk is necessary?
To fully understand? Possibly. I'll have to contact or talk with Dr. Sott and figure out if he believes it is.
Very well. Carry on, Commander. Let us know when you have more to report.
Roger.
Comms out. Okay. At the moment, you've still got Lieutenant Garrow looking very menacing and imposing, standing with his arms crossed, just glaring at everybody. Meanwhile, those of you who have gone to take an Ensign Tajin to one side, what were you guys doing?
Let's try and get the full story now.
Yeah.
So what were you doing? What were
Close the
you
door on
doing?
myself.
So what were you actually doing away on your personal task?
I am uncertain what this has to do with the investigation as a whole into the disappearance of Lieutenant Lee.
It is inconsistent with what we would expect someone performing observations with. Because this was the key moment, this was what you were sent in to observe, and you weren't present.
I was not. That is correct. I would...
What?
Go on.
I was just gonna say one job. You had one job.
Yeah, so did I, and that was to stream, but then I kept the starting shortly screen on, so, you know, we're all failing at our jobs today.
And further going out to perform personal tasks, you've risked, even if there wasn't an accident, further potential contamination or discovery.
I was confident in my ability to remain undiscovered.
I do have a value for negotiation, and so
Give it a go.
It's going to be sort of trying to get her to understand that by being so cagey about something that seems a bit suspicious, this doesn't necessarily look good on her in the nature of the accident.
By all means.
Perform. Cool. So, could you please talk
Well, this-
explain to us a bit better? Oh, sorry.
May as well try and give this a roll to see if you can generate some
Oh.
momentum here. So this is going to be using your presence. And let's see. Presence and command, I would say.
I suppose with this question, wouldn't hurt to help have someone roll for the counsellor as well, to just monitor.
Sure. Who hasn't been the counsellor yet? Connie, have you been the counsellor yet?
I have not.
There we are, then here's your
Can do
chance.
that.
Let's see if you can do better than the other guys who have rolled so far.
Oh, 4.
Now you... That was 3 dice from Phlesc. How did you get 3?
Oh, how did I roll 3 dices? Oh, sorry, I do not.
Then I'll ignore the 10 and give you the 4 and the 1
Yeah, sorry about that.
to give you 3
That's 2
successes, so
dice.
that's not bad.
I was using the value, not determination.
You were using your value, but you weren't using determination.
Yeah, so I ticked the box. That's my bad.
Right, gotcha. Okay. In that case, can I have Connie give me an insight and command check, 1 dice with, I don't know, psychology, any of the counsellor's foci will do.
Yeah.
They all kind of apply in this situation. She's not doing too great
Oh.
today. She's a subpar counselor in Betazoid, it seems. Or she's just having a bad day. But, thankfully, Lieutenant Phlesc is a pretty good negotiator. So, you were using negotiation as a value to try and, yeah. Okay, so you got 3 successes, which was pretty much on the money for what I was going to charge you with, but I will give you a boost of momentum for that. I was unprofessional, and I did not want to admit that in front of Dr. Gur and in front of yourselves, for fear that it would influence my position amongst other anthropologists when I have only started on this course that I wish to pursue. I got personally involved with a Kalmurian.
So there is definitely a risk of contamination.
It was not anything that would overall risk. Actually, no. I am trying to spin my own story in my own favor. I had learned that one of the student faculty involved in the anti-gravity project was being harassed by another member of said faculty. I judged that attempting to correct this behavior in the offendee, the person doing the harassing. I attempted to correct the behavior of the harasser, and judged it that it would not be too much of a risk to the Prime Directive to do so. I essentially warned him off of harassing the student further, and directed that he should seek counseling in order to repair this conduct.
It is commendable wanting to stand up for someone, but ignoring the Prime Directive that has already happened and sticking to your principles is precisely what Dr. Gur has been doing.
It was also a reason between a disagreement with Lieutenant Lee and myself.
So, thank you for sharing. What was the role of the person who was the assaultee, accuser? No, the offending person. Do they have any role or prominence within this project?
They were a graduate student and therefore technically an assistant to the Gravity Project. They were an assistant to the scientist directly responsible for the creation of the Gravity Project. I believe she viewed being part of the project as valuable and hoped that the harassment would stop as soon as the project was deemed a success. I am not so certain that the harassment would have stopped.
And the harasser, what is their input to the project? Would they have potentially sabotaged something to hide or to eliminate evidence of the harassment?
Unlikely. The harasser was Dr. Rax Kortar, who was the lead on the Gravity Taurus project. He has now been assumed dead, along with the others who were in the experimental room at the same time when the accident occurred.
You know, I kind of think we need to go to the scene of the crime, so to speak.
Yeah, we'll have to assume identities as relatives or other research personnel interested to see what happened to our representatives, because we can't discount this as being a potentially linked cause, even if it's the case that whoever was...
Sorry, go on.
Even if someone hasn't sabotaged it, they may not have been paying full attention when they needed to.
We can certainly attempt to fabricate identities for you from the same academic institution that Lieutenant Lee and myself were using as part of our covers. I have to note, the Kalmurians are a heavily canid species. Therefore, you will have to undergo extensive prosthetics. They can be uncomfortable, but you will have to endure.
Dr. Sott, can you check to make sure that this goes well and will be suitable?
Of course. Gotta do what you gotta do.
I like how you went full New York Bronx there for a moment.
That's the true accent. It slips through every so often.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Alrighty, so here comes Commander Hopkins after her brief confab with the captain. Do you, since the Jim speaks up, do you wish me to accompany your investigation team, since I am already a known quantity? I could introduce you as faculty members of the Pytulis Academy.
I think that would help with our, our subterfuge.
Mm-hmm.
Very well.
Alright. How many disguises can you be able to fabricate?
As many as are required, Commander.
Alright,
Are we leaving Gara there just to be threatening and monitor?
Yes. And a damn good job he's doing of it too.
Lurking, I believe, is every security chief's primary ability. So swapping Gara with Hopkins for all of a moment. What's Hopkins doing?
Time for some Klingon interrogation.
I think, realistic, a hero might have a better chance at investigating the crime scene than Hopkins.
So you think Gara should go and Hopkins should remain, kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. As you can probably take control of Gara whilst we don't have a Chris, so... alright.
Hopkins can be there to review the data that they've got from the failed observation.
Everyone will be required to input subcutaneous transporter locators in order that we can transport back at a moment's notice if we need to. They will be hidden beneath the skin and therefore are easily concealable.
Did Dr. Lee also have this transplant?
He should have, yes. But of course, contact with the transponder ceased when the accident occurred.
Let's get there and do some scanning.
Mm-hmm.
Okie dokie. No checks are really required, but just in case you do want to build up some extra momentum, I am fine with Dr. Sott assisting with the disguises to try and ensure that they are the best that they could possibly be.
Certainly.
And I'd like to help to make sure the transporters, with my focus in transporters, are going to work.
Yes,
I mean,
indeed.
it's never really come up before either in the shows, but like, you know, Gerkow and myself are literally blue.
Yes.
So, might be an extra bit of tinkering there. A bit of pigmentation colouring.
Okay, so if I can get... hang on to that, Liz. I want to hear what you have to say. I just want to put the last bit of this particular thing through my brain. So, insight and medicine I will be requiring from Dr. Sott to see what he can contribute
Cool.
to that particular side of things.
You said I was assisting, yeah? So one dice.
No, you can roll 2
Oh.
dice for it, because this is Dr. Sott taking over. I'm a doctor,
Okay.
let me see. So, yeah, 1 success, so you've got... You work to make absolutely sure that these things cover the obvious. What was it you were going to say, Liz?
Like, oh yeah, they are blue, so this we're gonna take some.
Dabba-dee, dabba-die.
Not to mention, of course, Lieutenant Gerkow is shorter and broader than regular folks, so she's, there's an obvious height and size disparity. When
Gerkow and I will stand in the trench coat, she'll stand on my shoulders. Put a mask on.
As it turns out, when you bring up the statistics on the Kalmurians, if I can just find the notes on the Kalmurians themselves. Where was it? Where was it? Where was it? So I'm trying to trawl through my notes. Right, here we go. So, Kalmurians have skin tones ranging from dark bronze to light gold. Their scalps, foreheads, necks and backs and hands and arms are covered in thick fur that ranges from dark brown to pale gold. And they have slightly protruding muzzles, and their eyes are moderately large and somewhat fox-like, vulpine. So, a good number of prosthetics will be needed. As a result, Sott and Gerkow's blue skin coloration will likely be covered by prosthetics anyway. So Dr. Sott can add a bit of extra detail to the disguises to make sure that any blue is being disguised. The sheer amount of fur covering you will be able to allay any skin color problems. But yes, the prosthetics themselves are going to be quite extensive. They are bipedal humanoids, so you won't have to run around on all fours or anything like that, but you've basically got these minor genetic alterations, because Dr. Sott will be able to tell you that any genetic alterations made to try and make you guys appear like Kalmurians will be so extensive that they will likely get rejected by your systems, and therefore you'd have to put in anti-rejection meds, which will only last so long. So your best bet is to just basically go full prosthetic makeup, which means to use a modern day adage, it's going to be a lot of latex and glue. They do wear clothing, so the clothing is very much some styles for bipedal canids, but fairly reminiscent of 21st century Earth type fascions. So any extra jackets, trench coats, that kind of thing can be used to try and augment the disguises somewhat, but you also have to appear as academics, so yes, basically a golden retriever in a suit. Thank you, Mark. I like that picture. That's who's a handsome boy. Anyway, so yes, go on. Sorry, anything else anybody wants?
Oh
to
no,
add?
I was just going to say the implantation and the performance of the transporters. Do we need to roll for that, or is that they just work?
If you want to, because you're going to need a place to transport down that's not terribly visible, because you don't want to, you don't want people to say, "Hey, look, a blue shimmering light." So you're probably going to want to find somewhere covert to transport in, so you can use your transporter know-how to try and find a safe place to touch down. That could be insight and engineering, with your focus on transporter technology.
Cool.
This will be a difficulty 1 check. It's not hard.
Cool. Oh, come on. Why'd you have to say that bit?
I'm tempting fate, of course. 7 and a 17. 1 success was all you needed. Okay, cool. So you find essentially a sheltered alleyway, which is a space between two academic buildings on in the Research Institute's grounds. So you should be able to materialize there and just walk out from this gap between buildings. It's sheltered. The light is not on that particular part of the building, so you should be able to transport in no problem. Right, any other preparations you think you would like to make before you go on this investigation? You are all assumed to have tricorders and communicators, and we've just mentioned the subcutaneous transporter recalls, so...
Do we need any... Not armor, but like biosuits? Or are we going to be okay wandering around?
That's going to get very uncomfortable wearing prosthetics and with armor underneath. That's going to get hot. You can if you want to, but, you know, all I'm saying is only one of you here is Vulcan. And it's, so...
And things like holographic images, we're not going to need those.
Unless you think you do.
Ooh. If we need to suddenly hide. Yeah, no, I'm going to say a holographic imager is something I'm going to want to take with me.
A holographic imager is essentially a camera which you use to snap shots of places, rather than an actual hologrammatic emitter.
Oh. And the anti-grav sled? No, probably won't.
Because everybody just wants to slip along on the anti-grav sled.
Well, no, because we're canines. We'd be like,
You stick your tongue out in the air.
Yeah. No, I don't think we need anything there.
Dr. Sott thinks that Lieutenant Phlesc might be getting himself into the part a little too much. Don't bury yourself in the part. Name me that quote and I will give you an advantage on your next roll.
Sounds like a Dr. McCoy thing to say.
From which episode or film?
Oh.
See if chat can beat him to it.
It is Dr. McCoy, isn't it?
I'll give you that one. It's Dr. McCoy, but if you think you can name
I can like hear him saying it. I just can't visualize it. I will get to it. I'll get to it.
All right then.
I won't Google it. Scout's on it. Connie can see my screen from where she is.
All right then. That would be heresy of the highest order if you needed Google help. All right then. Final preparations. Anything you guys want to take, or is this pretty much what you're going to use?
That's all we need, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right
good.
then. So, you're taking Tajine with you because she needs to provide you extra cover. You're leaving Hopkins behind. Is the councillor staying here, or is the councillor going with you?
I don't think we need the counsellor.
No, I think we're good.
She's been not that useful anyway, so...
She's having a really bad day.
I think he's
Not as bad
hiding
as
something.
I don't think they're having as bad a day as Hopkins.
Well, there's that. But all the same. So is Hopkins definitely staying here to monitor the situation?
Oh, I mean, if we're going to leave the council, then probably not.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So the councillor can remain to keep an eye on everything going on here. You guys are going to be beaming into another place. Alright, everybody okay?
Yes, and was it by any chance Star Trek 4 The Voyage Home?
There you go!
Boom!
Dr. Sott gets an advantage on his next task. Just difficulty gets lowered by 1. Nice. It was indeed The Voyage Home.
Amazing
I'm not going to
movie.
quote. I'm not going to long quote the quote because the quote game is that if you quote the film, if you quote a film or a TV show more than 3 times, you have to watch it. So I'm not going to do any more quotes, much as my brain really, really wants to. So off we go. So what we have is that you essentially transport off to an academic building. And you find pretty much what you expect to find at an academic building.
I'm
Plenty
blind.
of facilities. I know. Plenty of academic facilities, buildings. There are students going this way, that way, and all points in between. Lieutenant, pardon me, I'm giving her a promotion. Ensign Tijin, if I can just get you to hold still for a sec. If I can describe to you where you are. So Ensign Tijin leads you out and points out the various places. So she notes that her cover identity was Hezin, and Lieutenant Lee's cover was Rikeli. As was mentioned, both apparently faculty members of the Pitulus. Let me check my notes to make sure I'm getting that right. The Pitulus University, which apparently is on kind of like an island country a bit further north of where you currently are in the Aphios Research Institute. Aphios is the name of the city, and is a city that's apparently a bit of a nexus. It's a bit of a center point. As such, is a bit of a cultural melting pot as far as the Kalmurians themselves are concerned. The Kalmurians are separated into a great many archipelagos of various sizes, but there are larger continents like Aphios, which become major trade and travel hubs. As such, Aphios has its own scientific research institute, which is where you are going. You are led to a large, impressive building. When Tijin brings you in through the reception area, she says that she is here to, along with several other faculty members who are here to investigate the apparent death of their fellow, I've forgotten his name, McKelly, Dr. McKelly, and therefore she would like to have access, she and her colleagues would like to have access to the gravity lab where the experiment was taking place. You are asked to wait for a short period of time. Not many minutes pass before a Kalmurian, a lean, somewhat edgy Kalmurian who appears to be just shy of middle age, with a couple of white streaks appearing in places here and there. You do notice the rather hungry look in his eye as he shakes everybody's hand and introduces himself as Director Kevin MacLeod, head of the institution. Of course, I'm all too happy to allow you to investigate. We, of course, have only allowed limited access to the scene ever since the accident. No, not Khan. Karn. Rather than Khan! I think I managed more the Zachary Quinto than I did the the actual Kirk Khan, but there we are, never mind. The Bill Shatner, pardon me, I almost forgot our king's name. Good Lord, talk about heresy. So, Director MacLeod takes the lead and leads you down to a sub-level of the Institute before he does stop you before you descend down into the actual level and leaves a message with one of his assistants. You don't actually overhear what's said, but as Director MacLeod then resumes escorting you down into the sub-level, he does say that Dr. Jezen and student Nalon will be there to greet you when you do reach the lab. And so, Director MacLeod takes the lead and asks you all to enter into the laboratory. So you now have control over your characters again. So, let me lock this off at the moment. The people. Right, so Dr. MacLeod introduces you first to Manny Naylorn. She is a young female grad student. She appears, well, rather emotionally devastated, to be fair. Let's get Garrow in here. And Tajin, of course, as well. And Director MacLeod then introduces Dr. Sifa Jezen. Jezen. And where's her description? Notes. Jezen is a somewhat older female. I can't find her description. Good grief. Give me a second. That's Nelorn. That's more of Naylorn. That's more of Naylorn. Grr. Aha. So, yes, apparently there's not much more to tell. Dr. Jezen is another member of the Research Institute who was also developing her own anti-gravity technology, but was on hand when the accident occurred. Manny Naylorn, however, the grad student, was not present when the accident actually occurred. So, with that in mind... So, says the director, how can we help? So, for those of you who are looking through the windows, the technology you see in here is pretty primitive by Federation standards, of course, but when you look through the windows of the lab, because you're currently in the control room, what you see is a large pile of erect equipment kind of piled up in the center of the lab, most of it crushed inwards or half melted. You can, however, glimpse underneath of it the remains, the somewhat bent and crushed remains of a device in the shape of a torus, which is what these two intersecting rings are in the center of the floor. The thick windows laid into the control room that you're standing next to are their support frames are warped, as if some intense force pulled them towards the center of the lab. Thankfully, though, it looks like they haven't actually broken, they just bent. So, Director MacLeod puts both of his hands together and rubs them and just goes, well, I'm not sure what more help we could be, but we can definitely try to answer any questions you might have in regard. Of course, we want to help. This was a terrible accident. Very, very unfortunate that it had to take the lives of so many brilliant people.
Is he able to tell us what happened or what he thinks happened?
Was someone else going to offer a note as well?
I was just gonna ask, has anybody been inside the test chamber since the accident?
Okay, and Chris, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask about any survivors, just in case, you know, the
All right, okay.
the man we're looking for.
Okay,
Wasn't killed.
so survivors. Is anybody in there? Mark, what was yours again? Sorry.
What does he think occurred? So
What does
the-
he
the
think
cause
occurred?
of the
Okay,
accident.
so what happened? Anybody been in there? And any survivors? Okay. Well, from what we could tell, Dr. Kortar was in the test chamber along with his assistant, Lot Imorin, and visiting Dr. Rakelli, your former compatriot. I'm so sorry. From what I've been told, the Gravity Taurus activated successfully, but unfortunately the gravity field it generated started to run out of control. The doctors lost control of the experiment, and before the safety shutdown could be initiated, unfortunately the gravity being generated by the experiment pulled everybody in towards the gravitational field and unfortunately crushed them. As far as survivors go, we have been unable to. Well, they were basically squished into. I hate to be indelicate here, but unfortunately, they were kind of squished into paste when we discovered. When we were able to actually get the doors open and check for survivors. I'm afraid no one seemed to survive. The gravitational fields going on within the chamber were just too intense. It seemed that Imorin, the assistant, we found his remains next to a control panel inside of the chamber itself. We think that maybe he tried to get control of the gravity field, but unfortunately was unable to, and he was actually crushed up against the control apparatus, and he did not survive. Terrible business.
Did you find the remains of all three of them, or was it just the assistant?
Well, again, I hate to be indelicate, but the sheer gravitational power going on within the test chamber was such that you have to understand these people were pulverized. Being able to discern one person from the next was virtually impossible. They were, again, smears. We tried to determine as best we could as to which smear was who, but as you can probably imagine, that was pretty much an impossible task.
Where are the smears now?
Well, we in order to pay as much respect as we could to the deceased, we gathered up the forgive me again, the material that we could, and they've since been given to the authorities, and yes, as soon as the authorities clear it, then and we can get this horrible accident behind us, the remains will then be issued out to the families. Again, I am so sorry for your colleague's loss. It was unfortunately an accident. Can I get... let's see, who has... Yeah, can I get Hopkins, as well as anybody else who wants to lend a hand? Hopkins has got really good insight and command, with a focus on... I'll let the interrogation one, because you're looking out for certain physical tells and whatnot. So Hopkins can be the lead, but I'm alright for other folks to join in as well, if they feel they've got sufficient insight and maybe command, to see if they can see what people are fidgeting in ways they shouldn't.
I've got 11 insight. I'm happy to help. My command's not great, but
I've got incisive scrutiny as a talent as well.
You do? Insider's scrutiny as a talent, however, is finding... Well, actually, no. It's finding weak spots in arguments, theories, and machines to glean information from them. So if you succeed at a task using control or insight, this would be insight, you gain a bonus momentum, which can be used to obtain information.
Interest. And I just have parent figure. My insight's not too bad, and command of 2.
So if we have Hopkins as primary, then we've got Sott aiding, we've got Gerkow aiding, and we have Phlesc aiding. That's the maximum of 5 dice that you're allowed, so that seems like it. Yep. That's one from Sott.
Boom.
And that's one from Phlesc. That's... And 3 from Hopkins. So, unfortunately, Neshlel doesn't... I mean, it's difficult to read people when their faces are covered in fur. So, yeah, maybe not familiar enough with Kalmuri mannerisms to be able to point obvious holes and things. So, yeah, at the moment, Gerkow's ability to poke holes in arguments and stuff isn't yielding anything much, because at the moment you're just listening. Phlesc and Dr. Sott. That's definitely Hopkins. Every time the word accident is mentioned, the grad student, Menny Nelon, even though she looks like she's still very much overcome with grief, she has like a tilt to her head and the way she's looking at MacLeod that seems to suggest that she doesn't agree with that assessment. And as far as Dr. Sifa Jezen goes, she's... I don't know. It's very difficult to read this lady. She's just standing there impassively listening to everything that's being said, and is just nodding along. Doesn't seem to be adding anything to this the talk. MacLeod he does display physical signs that would seem to elicit nervousness, which would kind of make sense because basically he's being asked to explain an accident that happened on his watch in his scientific research institute, and now he's getting a visit from another academic institute who are asking what's happened to their visiting colleague. So you can kind of understand Director MacLeod's anxiety, because, you know, there's more of you than there is of him. So
we are kind of surrounding him.
We haven't heard from Dr. Jezen, but as she was doing different transport and anti-gravity research. Can we ask her what her opinion is? Opinion of this setup and what she thinks might have happened.
What do I think happened? Well, I won't argue with Director MacLeod that Dr. Kortar was indeed a brilliant scientist. He had the benefit of youth, of course, as did his assistant Imori. You definitely detect no small amount of disdain when she mentions Imori's name. I was asked to assist with the test firing of the Taurus because many here had to take a personal day. Totally understandable, and I was the next best choice because, as has been noted, I do have experience with testing anti-gravity technology. My own technology being so casually set to one side of the same test chamber. She does seem to cast a bit of a derisive eye towards Director MacLeod when on that final comment. On the day itself, we initiated the test firing of the Gravity Taurus, as we have so many other times before, this time looking to see if there was any significant noticeable yield in the amount of gravity force that could be generated by the Taurus. Dr. Kortar was inside the test chamber along with Imorin and the newcomer Raqueli. I was staying outside in the control room to monitor the situation. As such, I had to take a brief restroom break. I am older, after all. When I came back, I found that the Taurus had run out of control. And that's when I activated the emergency safety deactivation sequence, which was what allowed us to finally turn off the power to the gravity experiment and allowed us to eventually prise our way into the chest chamber and find what we found.
So no one was in the control room monitoring at the time.
As I said, I slipped out for all of a few moments. When I came back, chaos had ensued.
Is this the first time the anti-grav experiment has been run?
Not the first time it's been run, as far as I understand it. Not that they tell me much about it. This was Kortar's baby, after all. Again, she's casting a very heavy look of, well, disdain in Director MacLeod's direction. This isn't the first time such an experiment has been run. This is not the first time this specific experiment has been run. This is the first time this specific experiment has crashed, shall we say.
Considering the implications and what the resulting accidents, isn't it rather negligent to leave the control room unsupervised?
The three inside of the test chamber were all professionals who had gone through this numerous times before, and, well, I hate to point this out, but there is supposed to be a fail-safe mechanism inside of the test chamber itself. The fact this safety mechanism did not activate shows that something went wrong.
I'd like to go into the test chamber. Sorry.
Yeah. Is it safe to go inside?
Yeah, this is safe, yeah.
Let me in!
Dr. Jason looks over at Director MacLeod, who's just basically still wringing his hands and just goes, yeah, I suppose. Dr. Jason, any objections? She just shakes her head. Very well then. I'm just going to open up the test chamber here. Feel free to have a nose around. We'll be out here if you need us.
Before we wander in, I was going to ask Nerian, is this typical not to have monitoring?
Who were you asking, sorry?
Nerian? What's the grad's name?
The grad student. Many Nailorn.
Many Nailorn. Is it typical that no one would be present monitoring during an active experiment? Is this typical of this research facility? And why is it she was unable to be present?
Well, she's old. She's a respected member of the faculty, and, well, being somewhat more advanced in age than everybody else is not exactly a crime or an indication of negligence. She had to go to the bathroom. Besides, as she's pointed out, there is a safety shut-off inside of the test chamber itself. It didn't activate. It should have activated.
We need to check for sabotage, don't we?
We need to find out why the safety mechanism didn't activate.
Yeah.
But where was Many then? She was.
I had to take a personal day.
Was this something that you'd rather discuss in private?
Ensign Tajin speaks up at this point. I do believe it has to do with a certain topic of conversation that I asked to bring up in private.
Yeah. Thought so. Has anyone? So we'll walk away from that particular discussion then.
Okay.
Has anyone examined the failsafe?
No, I'd like to do that first.
Oh no, sorry. I was asking her if she.
What's that?
Oh,
Or
sorry.
anyone has anyone in the research facility examined the failsafe?
As
To
far as I
understand why it
know,
can work.
only the director's people have been in order to secure the remains. Nobody else has been in or out. There are logs kept as to when the doors to the lab open and close. So we also have security footage that shows that nobody went in or out during the test firing of the Taurus. Anybody who was in there would have died when the Taurus ran out of control. So I don't know what to tell you. If you want to poke around and have a look for yourselves, be my guest, because I don't know what's going on.
While we're in the test chamber, I tell Dr. Sott, scan for any residual paste.
Residual paste.
Okay. So when
Hopkins
you're
will
actually...
look at-
Go on, sorry. Hopkins is what, sorry?
Gonna look at Phlesc and make a motion to go get into the chamber and help because he feels like he might be more of a help getting inside the chamber.
I can hear you saying that through your teeth. Get inside. All smiles. Everyone, all smiles. Nothing to see here. Okay,
Phlesc
yes.
is going to go looking for the failsafe so he can examine the failsafe.
Okay, so
Yeah, so
when you...
oh, sorry. I was going to say, I'm happy to scan for the
Paste?
paste.
Alright, so when you go in, you see that large equipment consoles have been bolted to the floor, heavy conduits run from floor to ceiling. They're still in place, but all appear to be warped inwards, not unlike the windows. Leaning against one wall at about a 20-degree angle from the vertical is a thick rectangular slab, which is what Sott and Gerkow were standing close to just now. Appears quite heavy. It's the only loose item in the room that hasn't been pulled over into the center. The wreckage pile in the center of the chamber is, and one of the consoles nearby are crusted with brown stains of dried blood. The, let me see, failsafe. Right. Where is it? The failsafe is not that far from the main door, actually. It's very simply a button, pretty much planted into the wall. And when you look at it, its method of operation is almost genius in its simplicity. It's basically a button of sorts, but when a gravity field is exerted of sufficient strength, it pulls the button towards the center of that gravity, which will more than likely be the center of the chamber, and that cuts off the connection to the power and would shut down the Taurus. The fact that such a simple failsafe didn't happen...
Yeah, can I examine the failsafe to see if it's been configured correctly? Has it got too high a requirement? Has it been prevented from operating? Is there any signs? I just want to investigate the failsafe.
Can I? Sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
Just to check to see if it should have worked.
Yeah,
With.
I want to assist to determine the probability of it
Oh,
failing
yes.
without sabotage.
Okay, fine, yeah. reason and engineering, or reason and science, whichever one you think applies to you individually, because either do in reality. So.
Definitely engineering is that's higher.
And Neshlel would be science higher, so you're approaching it from two different angles to get at the same thing. So yeah, whoever wants to be the primary, nominate yourselves.
Well, I've got a 10 and a 5. How about you?
What was it? Insight, right? So 10 and a 4.
I don't think it was insight. I think it was reason.
Oh,
I might be
reason.
wrong.
Oh,
Reason
9
and
and a
science.
4.
Okay, I'll take the lead then. And it's still can use parent figure.
Yes, you can.
Maybe I use the statistical probability.
Yep. Just so you can calculate the likelihood of this thing failing on its own versus failing via tampering. Yes. So that's 1 success from Phlesc and 2 successes, so it's very much momentum gained there. So yeah, like I said, the failsafe is so simple in its creation. It would be madness that, considering the sheer gravitational forces that were apparently being exerted in this test chamber, the fact that they didn't make the failsafe go off because it's just a simple weighted button. Poik! It should have just flipped and killed the power to the entire thing, no problem. The fact that it didn't, the thing's far too simple to have been not to have been tampered with. There's only one way it wouldn't have gone off, and that's tampering, sabotage.
Right, so we've identified that there's sabotage. They said they had logs for the test and security footage, but does
Yes,
that
indeed.
go further back than the test itself? Can we see who's had access to tamper with it?
Okay. Let's see. La 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 la. Well, there are no cameras in the lab because that would not have been useful for the gravitational, mechanical, and electromagnetic readings that were being taken, and cameras' signals could interfere with sensitive EM detectors, so that's why there are no cameras inside the test chamber itself. As for the... let's see. It's the stuff to do with security. Then the health issues. Right, failsafe. Telemetry from the data shows that yes, the failsafe failed to activate. Door sensors confirm that the door was not opened between the start of the experiment and the moment when the doors were forced open from the outside after the fatal accident.
I'm guessing there's restrictive access to this facility, even if we don't have cameras here. There's only people would have to go in through these doors. So
They did say they had logs for this.
yeah, like logs, or where are the nearest cameras monitoring entering the lab? Even if it's not the
Go on.
even if it's not the actual environment itself, there's people. Is there monitoring outside the control room or maintenance access?
There are basic security cameras in corridors and in the main reception area, places where you expect for them to keep an eye on who's coming and who's going, but only in the main thoroughfares.
Yeah, no, so I was talking to someone else, probably had a similar point around access logs to the lab.
And the access logs show that a Dr. Kortar, a Lot Imorin, and someone identifying themselves as Rapelli were all logged as going to activate the Gravitatorus within the within the test chamber itself, and Dr. Sifa Jezen was on hand to monitor the control room.
So is someone within standard access? We've not identified another party privy to potential sabotage.
It doesn't seem so at the moment.
Ooh. I mean, I kind of want to go back to the director and ask him how he thinks the failsafe could have failed and what his thoughts are on the potential of sabotage that seems to be evident.
Before we go questioning people again, can I do the scan for like genetic material?
Ah, yes, of course.
Oh, yes.
Very
Oh,
good.
do we have evidence of, if you're scanning for that, evidence of the transponder? Because it would have been crushed, but can we detect it? Because that's going to be unique material.
That is
Yes,
true.
indeed. Yes, indeed. Right. Give me a moment.
And if we're going to start questioning people, Hopkins can be very.
Oh yes, let Hopkins do the interrogation.
I feel like we want to try and accumulate as much evidence as possible before we start like
Oh yeah.
going down a
of course.
line of questioning.
So let's see.
That's a good point.
Give Hopkins all the questions that you want asked.
Basically, scan everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let me find out the bits that you're looking for. Aha. Okay. So. Where is it? Where's the actual thing? Or do I just give the... Alright then, so this is going to be scanning for biology, control and medicine with a focus of... Ooh. Emergency medicine is the closest you can get here.
Cool. Control medicine, yeah?
Yes, please. Let's see what you get. 2 successes. Okay. Right. Should be about during the following. So yes, you definitely can detect the signs of Kalmuri genetic material using the tricorder, but this is a good point. You are being technically kind of almost observed, so I'm going to have to ask for also a control and security check from Sott first to see how stealthy he's being about this.
Sure. Is that another
Another check by itself, yes. But because I said I would give you an advantage for for naming that quote, the difficulty goes
Yes, please.
down. So
Can I do a re-roll as well?
you can do a reroll as well by all means, but you're going to have to spend a determination to do so.
Cool.
That's much better.
Okay.
That's better.
Phew. So, yes, luckily for you, Neshlel and Tajin notice what Sott's doing and kind of put themselves in the way of the door to try and physically block the sight as much as possible as Sott just reaches into his disguise and pulls out a tricorder and starts to scan. So, with the medical tricorder, Sott can pick up an idea of where the soup that was left behind were concentrated, and there's definitely enough evidence of genetic material to support the idea that a Kalmuri was there and a Kalmuri was there when everything went horrible. And you do detect DNA trace that suggests a human was present.
I'm guessing that the this race of people here, their technology isn't good enough to have established that like this was not one of their own. Because we don't particularly want them finding out that there's an alien smeared all over their lab floor.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah.
They said they've already picked up the remains.
Yeah, might have to chase those down.
But what you get is, if I can find the text, the scan of the remains indicates that there's insufficient human biological material present to account for Lieutenant Lee's biomass. The Kalmuri did clear away most of the remains, but Lee's remains and Dr. Kortar's would have been impossible to separate, so there should be roughly equal portions of both individuals' genetic material left behind. But the amount of Lee's DNA detected is very small compared to the other two victims. Not enough to
Interesting.
prove that he died here. While that's going on, anyone else doing anything else?
Yeah, I was going to be using my scan, because whilst the transporter would have been crushed, I can still try and scan.
Scan for his transponder, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the metal behind it.
Control and engineering, then, please. But again, this is first thing you're gonna have to do me is a control and security check to see how sneaky you're being about it.
Ooh, sneaky. Do I want to use it? Yeah, I might use it as no. I'll save the determination in case I need to rewarp.
Bearing in mind, if you don't have a value, you can always draw upon the Prime Directive as a value, as the mission's overall value, as another resource to use determination. So you don't have just your character's values to draw upon. You can also draw upon the mission directives, which in this case is obey the Prime Directive and establish what really happened here. So
Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep that in just in case, right? So let's try and be sneaky with just the roll of 2 dice. Oh, okay.
Oh, it was a 20 and it rolled back onto a 2, so that was close. 2 successes, very nice. So Phlesc does actually manage to just surreptitiously pop the tricorder open when his back is to the observation windows. Now you can give me a control and engineering check as you basically tricorder scan for.
Cool. And I do have a focus in Metalgry, so
Yes, you do.
let's make sure I can find it.
2 successes again. Booyah.
Nice.
All right. The tricorder scans are at one point encouraging and at another point discouraging. You do find, when Dr. Sott points out the area where Lieutenant Lee's DNA is present, so what part of the test chamber is present, Phlesc can scan that area for any sign of Lee's transponder. And overall, the tricorder is having a job finding anything concrete, which makes a degree of sense because the sheer amount of the gravitational waves being uttered would not have been the only radiation source present in the room. There would have been electromagnetic energy being used in quite huge quantities, so they could account for the interference, possibly the failure of any device, subcutaneous or otherwise, that was on Lieutenant Lee's person. Hence why he didn't emergency beam out or anything, potentially. But Phlesc does, using his mineralogy, detect traces of deuterium alloys that are consistent with Federation tech, that suggests that the tech that Lee might have had on him could very well have been pulverized along with everything else. So in some ways, it's good news because you've found evidence that suggests that the transponder might very well have been ripped out of Lee's body. Such was the gravitational storm going on. The bad news is you have detected trace amounts of the minerals that go into a Starfleet comm communicator, but not enough to suggest that the communicator itself was destroyed.
So he's injured and he could be anywhere, is what I'm getting from this.
I want to ask Ensign Tajin then, what this area I'm by, what is this supposed exit lead to, and I want to explore it.
As far as I'm aware, those were emergency exits, allowable in case of any kind of emergency shutdown procedure. They are standard secondary exits from the chamber, as far as I am aware. Where they lead to would more than likely be the next level up of the building that we are currently within. And that's when you hear a commotion coming from the control room, to which Gerkow and Hopkins are already clued in to the nature of, because hang on a second, I've got a cat visiting me again. Dude, I fed you not moments ago.
Oh.
Jeez. 1 second, folks, I gotta get this cat out of my face.
Does Gerkow and Phlesc want to sneak down the escape corridor? See? let Hopkins and Gerkow deal with the.
I'm sure. Let's break the number one rule in tabletop games. Let's split the party.
Cats are very good problem solvers. As such, he has managed to solve the problem that if he wants food, what he does is get right up in my face when I'm streaming. He has got the timing down perfectly. And indeed. And he's also chosen the moment when my family aren't here either, so it's just me, so he's got no one else to fall back on, so he knows I'm trapped. Sorry. Right, yes. So, into this situation. Perfect, yes, indeed. Right, so feline interlude over. Let's go back to the dog people. As a... let me see now. Notes. Aha. I am in the wrong place. No, I'm not, actually. Sorry. This is a pre-written episode, and I'm trying to follow the notes, and I've lost my place. Right. An imposing Kalmuri female with, in this case, light fur, but stark red colouring as well. Dressed in a multi-pocketed vest and trench coat that looks well-travelled, has appeared at the entrance door to the control room, flanked by a pair of very burly-looking Kalmuri wearing uniforms and not exactly tack armor, but they appear to be wearing things like stab-proof vests and the like. They look very officious, so it doesn't take a genius to figure out that these guys might be in law enforcement. And Director MacLeod looks rather alarmed that police seem to be here. And this police inspector just strides confidently into the control room. Well, what do we have here? And she's looking Garrow up and down, and then her eyes track over to Hopkins. Visitors from another academic institution, so I've been told. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. You would be colleagues of Drs. Tezin and Rakelli, yes? Don't everybody answer at once. Ensign Tashin, of course, is just pops her head in. I am Tezin, yes. These are my colleagues. Really? Says the inspector. That's very, very interesting, because I happened to look into your credentials, and it seems that no one at Tullis University has actually ever heard of a Rakelli or a Tezin. I'm gonna guess the same thing is gonna come up when asked about these fellows here, too. And she indicates all of you. So, perhaps you folks would like to come with me down to the station so that we can answer a few questions about this whole strange situation, yes?
Woof woof.
Tell me you're actually saying that.
Damn straight.
Would you pretty much say that the Prime Directive has already been broken by this accusation?
Well, what do you guys think? I noticed
I don't
that
think so. As long as we can get out of this, I feel like as long as you tread lightly and you don't give any indication that you are otherworldly, we could just be frauds, not aliens.
I noticed that Phlesc and Gerkow are making for the other exit as quickly as possible.
I mean, we never went back into the control room.
We were eyeing up the escape hatch to see what we could find there.
Yes, and then you notice what's going on in the control room and are like, do we them, or do we get out, or do we them, or do we get out? What do we do? I was being very Shatner just then. Nevertheless, woof woof. you get an arched eyebrow from the inspector at that.
Sorry,
And-
just clearing my throat.
And if we don't come with you to have a little talk, then what?
Oh no,
Well-
the Klingons negotiating.
Well, considering that this now appears to be a case of industrial espionage, maybe even murder, then I'm going to have to insist. And that's when the officers kind of take the hint and come trumping in. So, how do you folks want to do this?
How aware are they of the positions of Phlesc and Gerkow right now? Because
Well, right
I kinda
now,
wanna go
they don't seem to be.
alright, I'm gonna run through this door.
Go.
Go, go, go!
Close the doors behind.
Cheese it! I can't open the door! I can't open the door! Let me out! There we go. Too many buttons to press!
You check that door, I'll check this door.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Phlesc, you found the closet.
Yes!
Gerkow, meanwhile, apparently has found the residential bunks area.
Wow.
Oh no!
This escape is going really well so far.
You know, so we just go upstairs.
So many doors.
Oh,
That's
no.
that's when you
All I'm
also.
hearing is the doors.
That's
Not the
when
toilet.
at some point Phlesc and Gerkow will also notice there was a camera in this area.
This is now like
Doesn't
every
matter, no one's looking
RPG
at
was.
the camera.
Excellent, we can use the camera evidence later.
This is like every RPG was like, we need to escape, but first we will loot every room.
Oh,
We can't miss
You guys are gonna come-
anything.
You're gonna come full circle and come back out in the main room now.
Okay.
Oh, this is a nice room.
Why didn't I have rooms like this when I was in science school?
well.
Okay,
Why
meanwhile-
do we have to go with you? Why can't we just have a conversation here? This seems like a good spot for a nice conversation.
Really? Okay. In that case, she nods to the two policemen, the two officers, one of which steps out, the other one steps in front of the door and just stays there, with his arms crossed.
Hopkins
other
is
one.
thinking to herself, like, I could take both of them with one hand tied behind my back. But she's not going to say this out loud. She's just going to keep thinking it.
Yes.
And Garrow's quite handy in a tussle as well.
All right then, says the inspector. My name is Inspector Lennox. I've been put in charge of investigating what's been going on here. What I've found so far, well, how should we say, very interesting. Now,
Interesting how?
well, for the moment... Oh, good grief, he's back. Hello, Cat. For the moment, how about we separate y'all a little bit? She gives a nod to the officer, and Director MacLeod and Dr. Jessen and many Nelon are all escorted out. Whereupon you guys are left with the inspector. He's bugging me for more food. He's starting to tap me on the shoulder. Back in a sec. I'm going to get more views from this harassment than I am for the entire freaking video, you realise.
Quick, the GM's distracted. Everyone make a break for it.
And that's when I pause the game. Aha! Excuse me.
It's alright, we've scouted the bugs.
And I'm just watching the cat bug him right now.
In hindsight, should we have brought the engineer as well?
Yeah.
Nah.
Nah.
Too late for that.
Dave will just be like floating around.
I mean, if you guys get away, then maybe you can
Kids,
like call up to the ship to have them beam down.
I like how he brings Dr. Sott's character back as he was trying to make a break for.
All right.
And as he pauses the game, just brings Dr. Sott's character down.
Well, this isn't all of you, because I recently checked with reception to check how many of you from Petulus actually have managed to get here. So, where's the other ones?
What other ones?
There were 6 of you, there are only 4 of you here. Where are the other 2? Look, we
How
can
about
do
me
this
and
the
you just
easy
have a
way or the
nice
hard way.
conversation? We could just have a nice conversation.
We
We'll be
are
along
having a nice
shortly.
conversation. This is me having a nice conversation.
I'm talking about just a one-on-one, seeing as I'm in charge of these buffoons.
Indeed. In charge? In charge of what exactly? What department? Who's the faculty manager at Petulus?
You know, just
You know,
the
Fido.
highest ranking doctor for this little group.
Fido. Is Dr. Sott saying that out loud? Was that his inside or his outside voice?
That was Dr. Sott's intrusive thoughts winning.
Right.
You don't want to know what Hopkins' intrusive thoughts are.
Kill, rend, destroy.
Totally did not just say she was the highest ranking doctor. Totally has a PhD.
Well, since you're all from Petulus, I hear the reccofish are biting this time of year. How's the fishing up that way?
Wouldn't know. I don't fish.
What about the rest of you? Catch any good fish recently?
Trick question. Is landlocked?
And here I was thinking that everybody from Petula's fished since they were such a small island. And fishing was a major island business. Huh. Interesting. So, again, what department did you say you were from? Was that you trying to use pig Latin or something?
Technically, what department is this?
Well, technically this is, I suppose, working gravitic sciences, so...
Yeah,
That one.
that department.
That one.
That one! It says there over the door, that's ours too.
But you said you found something interesting. What else did you find that's interesting besides the fact that we may or may not be who we say we are?
Well, that's
Where is
the...
our colleague?
I beg your pardon?
I was going to say Gerkow could start because Phlesc is still well escaped.
Gone!
Gerkow could ask about the remains of our colleague. Does it be interesting to see the remains?
Really? Because those remains have been taken to the Avios Bureau of Investigation, of which I am part of. Because now we're suspecting this was little more than the accident that everybody is suggesting it was. I wonder what would happen if we were to run a DNA test on the remains that we found. Might be interesting, no? Argit, check on the others outside, make sure they're not causing trouble, huh? The officer at the door looks kind of confused at this, but obeys his superior and walks out through the door. I wonder indeed what we would find if we did a thorough genetic test of the remains that we found.
What do you mean by
What?
that?
Well, I don't know. You're the scientists. What do you think? What do you expect we would find if we were to do DNA testing of the materials that we found inside?
I mean, Gerkow would sort of pipe up and go, it wouldn't help you identify the evidence we spotted of sabotage.
So you think this
Is
was
that not
sabotage?
We have evidence pointing towards it having been in that room. Did you not think to examine the facility when you were cleaning up?
Well, that was the initial medical teams that came in. Now I'm investigating, and I'm taking charge of this situation, as it were. I'm trying to get all the facts. Seems you guys have been doing a pretty good examination of the place yourselves.
Yeah. Suppose one of our
Yeah, thanks.
colleagues was involved in this.
I
We want
see.
to know what happened to him.
Because this is starting to look awfully like industrial espionage, maybe. But then, I'm trying to think, why would you guys come here if one of your guys was trying to steal the tech from this place? And then, the more I look into you guys, with these obviously fake identities that correspond to nobody in Petula's. Actually, I do have one little piece of evidence that I would like you guys to look at, but it's one of those that she goes over to the wall panel and she actually shuts off the lights.
What? They can see the dark and we can't.
So, yep, the darkness level goes right on down. And somewhere in the dark, you can hear the inspector go, this here, this photograph that I'm holding, you can only see it in certain lights, but this is quite an interesting shot of the building, don't you think?
Do we see what the pictures hold?
You can't see anything, it's dark.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It's like,
Let Gerkow speak up, saying along the lines of, oh, "I'm an old man. I can't see that well."
Doesn't like Neshlel have like enhanced seeing?
Yes, and where's she at the
Neshlel's
moment?
not here.
I'm not
I'll get
around.
off.
We're busy seeing other things.
One of you's hiding in the closet, the other's huddled at the bottom of the top of a stairwell. So you know. Oh, that's a shame. She says, "I was hoping you could help me with that." She turns the lights back on, and as she does, she pockets whatever it was that she'd been holding up. But then she seems to bring something else out from another pocket, but she's holding this in her hand and you can't quite see what it is. So, if this was industrial espionage, you guys have to be the worst spies I have ever come across. Not only that, but if you are spies and involved in this, then you are returning to the scene of the crime, which makes no sense whatsoever. So, I have to imagine that you are in fact here to see what happened to your fellow. So why go to the trouble of fabricating identities? This just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then there's this, and she opens up her hand. And in her hand is a Starfleet communicator badge. Maybe we should go to the station so we can have a private talk. What do you think?
This is a private talk in this room right now. It's just us.
Yeah. 100% private. Oh.
Okay. Well,
I am so torn on what to do as the commanding officer of this whole war.
and I think...
Can we have another look at that picture?
I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop us here. Because there's only so much time left of our session, and there's still plenty of uncomfortable wriggling that you guys might have to do before we decide
Emergency
on...
teleport!
Right in front of the... yeah, turn the lights off again, quickly. And then there's this big blue glow.
Can I have another look at that photograph quite quickly?
Click.
Yeah, can we
Transport
look
us
at that
out!
picture again?
We'll see what tactic you guys end up having to use next time, but it seems, yes, you guys are not exactly in the easiest of situations. Your fake
Really?
identities... Go on.
Well, everyone else is fairly easy. It's a Hopkins who's not. The prime director gets busted. It's what's on her
Well,
more.
Well, no, we've established that they've detected there's been a compromise. We can just teleport out.
right, we're busted. We're out. Bye! That's where the episode ends, and we'll have to find out. The mystery was never solved. They fled from from Kalmuri as fast as they could. However, later on, it turns out that Lieutenants Phlesc and Gerkow were found some ways away at a food stall that they'd managed to escape to. That had good views of the outer entrance of the Aphios Research Institute. So yes, you guys might have to break these guys out of jail later. Or if you guys are insisting on staying here, then the interrogation will be carrying on here. But for the time being, yes. With the time remaining, I don't want to go into any more because there's still plenty of investigation and interrogation to go. So yes, I'm going to call it a little earlier than I usually do, but on account of there's still more to go, so we'll need to pack that into next time. Assuming, of course, that everybody is available next time.
I believe Connie and I will be.
So the 17th of September.
I'll be available.
Cool, cool. Mark, are you still with us? Next week.
17th, I might be a little late, but I can be here.
Excellente. We should have Chris back then, and hopefully Dave will have his router-related issues sorted, so we'll hopefully have a full house allowed back.
You know,
Nice.
totally
It's been a while.
Totally didn't purposely leave our Daredevil engineer.
Back at the ranch, yes. Well, that's a good point, because one assumes open comms have been kept with the facility, so that whoever's back there, which will be... who did we leave back at the observation post? It was Councillor Sachs. So the Councillor has remained back, and so has probably been biting her nails after hearing the Inspector came in. But yes, Tavish can also transport down to the outpost and maybe try helping out somehow. But we'll have to postpone that until next time.
And the Counselor doesn't even know that they showed a badge communicator.
Quite. All she's heard so far is, well, yeah, everything she's gotten has been audio only. But yes. So you've now got a week to try and figure out how you're going to wriggle out of this one. Feel free to bandy ideas about over over Discord if you're going to accrue any ideas, because you do at the very least have 2 free agents running about for the moment who might be free to extract themselves and maybe try and get at things from a different angle, different perspective, whilst everyone else is being interrogated. So you do have options. We'll see what those options are next time. In the meantime, for those who have been tuning into the stream, I hope you found this little closed room murder mystery interesting so far. Interesting enough that you might want to pop back next week and find out if these guys can figure out who done it. So yes, we get a locked door mystery. Thank you for tuning in, Suitable Substrate, as always. And for the rest of you guys, yes, I hope that you do look after yourselves and treat each other well. Here in Britain at the moment, we're just coming off of a massive heat wave in September, which has happened before, but not to this degree. So let me just say that a Starfleet Admiral's uniform is really hot and sweaty. So the sooner I get this off, the happier I'll be. But I suffer for my art, but I do look damn good in this uniform, I have to say. I do ask that everybody tries to do like Vulcans do, but not engage in the ancient art of Kolinar in order to purge all your emotions, because that would be kind of sucky. Yeah, emotions are messy, noisy business, but without them, what would we be? And we wouldn't be able to appreciate those moments in our lives. So don't go through with Kolinar, but instead at least live long and prosper. If I can get my hand in shot. There we are. And make sure to tune in next week to find out what happens. In the meantime, thanks to my intrepid players, as always, for helping make this so entertaining. Thank you, guys, for tuning in. Thank you to the cat for upstaging me. Not once, but 3 times in total. And we will see you all next week. Same bat time, same mat channel. Hailing frequencies closed.